Jay here for Scotty and Motty. Just a bit of a different video this week. We will be back with the usual content next week. We'll have myself and Scotty doing our football chat and also Agony Uncles as well. So make sure you are getting your problems in. And as I always tell you, when we do Agony Uncles, we are not responsible for any of the bad advice we give out. But let's talk about Manchester United's biggest ever flops post Sir Alex Ferguson. Jadon Sancho has gone back to Dortmund after we spent 18 months chasing after him, paying 70 odd million quid for him. We got him, and then a few years later, or 2 and a bit years later, he's gone back to Dortmund on loan whilst Manchester United pays wages. We'll get to him a little bit later on, but that is just an example of some of the silly business we've done post Sir Alex Ferguson and how many players just haven't lived up to expectations. So I thought I'd do my own little top 10 list of the biggest post-Fergie flops. Let us know what you think. You may disagree, you may agree, it's up to you. It's quite staggering how much money we have wasted post Sir Alex Ferguson. Listen, I know the Glazers are parasites and they've taken a lot of money out of the club and all the dividends and the debt and all the rest of it, but we have still wasted a lot of money as well in so many players who I had such high expectations for and who didn't quite live up to the job. So we'll do our top 10, starting in reverse order. So 10 being the first one, obviously. Number 10, this player goes under the radar, much like he did for the brunt of his Manchester United career, and that is Morgan Schneiderlin. I had pretty high hopes for him. I thought he looked decent at Southampton. He was a midfielder in a sort of midfield role that we needed as well. And this was at a time when Southampton used to churn out quite a lot of players. There was a real sort of spate of signings from Southampton, not just by United, but also by Liverpool. Liverpool loved buying players from Southampton. Spurs did as well. You look at the amount of players that Southampton had about, what was it, sort of 7 or 8, 9 years ago. They had a lot of really good players that went through their ranks. You had, of course, we got Luke Shaw from there. You had Sadio Mane. You had Alderweireld. You had Vertonghen. You had Van Dijk. You had Lallana went there. Klein. There was all these players that were at Southampton, Lovren, and got a move elsewhere. Schneiderlin was one of them. He didn't live up to expectations. He didn't really do a lot for Manchester United, if I'm being brutally honest. I remember a pretty good game against Arsenal, I think. That's about it. I don't remember him doing anything. Get involved in the chat in the comments if my memory needs rejigging, because I can't recall him doing anything of note in a Manchester United shirt. He went to Everton. I don't think he did much there, to be honest with you, but a massively disappointing signing. Not the worst signing we've ever made, but he makes the list just because he didn't do much, and I expected much more. Number 9. This is a bit more controversial. This is where I might lose the room, as they say. But I'm going to stick Anthony Martial in at number 9. I'll tell you why. Because he did well for when he started. His debut against Liverpool, fantastic. I was there, scoring that goal that made it 3-1. Loved it. The goal against Everton in the FA Cup. He had a season where he scored 23 goals. So he has had big goals, good games, and big seasons. But ultimately, the last 2.5 years, he's not done anything. He's been injured a lot. He's not really been scoring. He went on loan to Sevilla, which is crazy that you loan out a player who was, 25 at the time, who's recently been your top scorer. You loan him out, and then he didn't do anything there. Now, I don't care what he does at Sevilla that much. I'm more bothered about what he does at Manchester United. But for a player who is so talented, and he's capable of so much, for him to spend pretty much the prime of his career, from the age of like 26, 27, to whatever he is now, 29 or whatever it is, not really doing much, it's disappointing. I know he's not 29. I don't know how old he is. How old is Anthony Martial? Get involved in the comments and remind me. But the point I'm making is he hasn't done a lot of late. And when I say of late, I mean for the last like 2.5 years. And that's disappointing, man. We know what Tony M is capable of. He's a mint player on his day, but his day hasn't been for long enough now. And I think that's why he makes the list. Sorry, love you, Tony, but let's be honest, it's not been happening for you for some time. Number 8. This is another controversial one. Ronaldo 2.0. That first season we got Ronaldo, when he came back, don't worry, I'm not talking about 2006, 7, 8, 9 Ronaldo, because that would be crazy. I'm talking about now, post Alex Ferguson, obviously, because that's the nature of this video. He came back, he had a good first season, didn't he? Was it 18 goals in the Premier League, 24 in all competitions? Did well. United didn't do well, but he personally did. However, it all went wrong very quickly, to the point where he's giving interviews on Piers Morgan, basically slagging off the club and slagging off his manager, and he had to go. It was a disappointment. It was a flop. It was. Now, I'm glad he came, because I think he'd have gone to City and won trophies there, and that would have been a bitter pill to swallow. But ultimately, he flattered to deceive. Didn't really work out, and the way he left the club the second time around was much worse than the first time he left. It was horrible. So, yeah, I'm putting him in the list. You might not agree. Get involved in the comments and let me know why you don't. Number 8. 7. I can't count. Number 7. And this one is a bit of an odd one, but I think where we're at now, it's Mason Mount. Now, before you all start piling on me, he's got plenty of time to turn it around at Manchester United. Don't worry about that, and I expect him to. But considering we spent 60 million quid on him, considering we could have got him for free in about 5 months' time, and considering all the fanfare that came with it and all the meltdown from Chelsea fans, I expected a lot more. I haven't seen anything. I know he's been injured, and I know he can turn it around. I expect him to. But has Mason Mount been a flop at Manchester United? So far, he has. But, and it's a big but, he's got lots of time to redeem himself, if that's the right term, and I think he will. But you can't pretend that he's been a success. He's barely played for us, and when he has, he hasn't done much. And we spent, 60 million quid, which is still a lot of money, on a player that was available for now in the summer. And who knows, we could have spent that money on someone else. Maybe got another striker in. So, sorry Mason. I still believe in you, but so far, so not good. Number 6, Memphis Depay. You remember when he arrived and there was all the debate, is it Depay, is it Depay? It was Depay, but he didn't do much, did he? A couple of goals in the Champions League, 1 or 2 good performances. I think early doors, to be fair, I think he actually played quite well. I think he got player of the month, didn't he, in his first month, but then he fell off a cliff. It wasn't great. It was so frustrating to watch. And we'd seen such a good player at PSV. He'd been banging him in, he'd been scoring free kicks, he'd been taking on players, he looked mint. Came to Old Trafford and he didn't do any of that. He just looked like a player that almost didn't want to be there and probably didn't. Also, there's all these stories and reports and rumours about him maybe not being the most, I don't know, what's the right word here? Focused, shall we say. Likes a bit of his, the finer things. Likes his gold-plated Rolls Royces or whatever it was he was accused of driving into training. Likes to make rap videos. There's nothing wrong with that. Fine, do all that. As long as you're playing well for the club. But he wasn't playing well, was he? And in the end, it just didn't work out for him. By the time Jose Mourinho arrived, he just didn't fancy him. And I don't think many fans complained about that because Memphis Depay didn't really do much in a Manchester United shirt. And it's a shame because at one point I thought he was going to be the future. Number 5, this is another big controversial one. I'm going to qualify it before you all start hammering me. Paul Labille Pogba. I loved Pogba when he was in the academy. I thought he was a fantastic player. I was gutted when he went to Juve. I was buzzing when we got him back. And for a spell, it looked like it was a great signing. But for me, the Paul Pogba we had at Manchester United the second time around wasn't good enough, consistently enough. And you can blame some of the players around him, and I get that. You can blame the managers, I understand that as well. We just couldn't find the right role for him. But ultimately, it didn't work out for him. What did he win? Was it 2 trophies? And that was in his first season, the Europa League and the League Cup. Now, you can say, well, it's not his fault he didn't win more trophies. He was turning up. It's the players around him. And to a certain degree, that's true, but to a certain degree, it's not. He didn't really turn up in the FA Cup final, did he? If we're being honest, in 2018. He didn't really turn up in the Europa League final, the second Europa League final that he played in against Villarreal. Big games, sometimes he didn't turn up. Sometimes he did, but far too often he didn't. Plus the injuries. He missed about a quarter of the game through injuries. So I think we're kidding ourselves if we can say that Paul Pogba was a success at Manchester United. He should have had a much better spell at United than he did for a multitude of reasons, but ultimately he flopped. Get involved in the comments and let me know if you don't think I'm telling the truth. Another player who did okay for a bit, but didn't live up to expectations, at number 4, Romelu Lukaku. He's got off to a flyer. I think it was 9 goals or something in his first 11 games, but he just didn't quite do what we needed him to do. Now, on paper, his record, 42 goals in 96 games, is decent. I think we'd snap your hand off now for that at Manchester United. But he went big spells without scoring. He didn't have a good record against the top 6 clubs. Also, there was that game against Manchester City where he more or less settled both of City's goals. Didn't work out for him. He piled on a load of weight after the World Cup. I don't know whether he meant to or not, but it didn't help him. Also, he became a bit of a meme, didn't he? Falling over the ball, missing sitters. It wasn't great to see. And eventually, by the time he left, I think most United fans were saying for the best. And that was such a shame because when he arrived, again, like everyone else on this list, I had such high hopes. And for a time, when we were 4-0 FC, for that monthly period or whatever it was, that period about a month or 6 weeks, it looked like he was going to be the signing we needed to take us to a title. But he wasn't, and he didn't, so he left. Number 3, Angel Di Maria. Champions League winner. Amazing player for Real Madrid. All his teammates at Madrid raved about him. Everyone loved him. Came to Old Trafford. And again, like a lot of people on this list, at first he looked like a great signing. Going past players, so talented. Oh, he was great. It's fantastic. Yeah, this is exactly what we should be doing. Getting these type of players who've been at Madrid, who've won a lot. Let's get him in. Just what we want. Yeah, give him the number 7 shirt. It's going to be amazing. And he wasn't. He didn't want to be here. He made that clear. He's made it clear since he left that he didn't like Manchester, he didn't want to beat United, he didn't want to leave Madrid, and he certainly didn't want to arrive here. I think he wanted to go to Paris, which is where he ended up. Not a good signing, didn't work out. Flattered to deceive, all the usual cliches. That's why he makes number 3 on our list. Spent a lot of money on him. Like Lukaku, though, the only positive thing was we managed to get a little bit of money back for him. But other than that, there was no positives. Just wasn't good enough. Number 2, I'm going to throw Jadon Sancho in here. I'm sorry. I like Sancho. I think he does get a little bit of a bad rap. And there has been some moments in a Manchester United shirt. But we spent ages trying to get him. We got him. And he hadn't done much. Let's be honest. He didn't do much under Ole. He didn't do much under Ragnick. And he hadn't done much under Erik ten Hag. And then the way that he's left, I know he could come back. He's only on loan. Hasn't been great. To publicly fall out with the manager the way he has, it's a bit of a shambles. It might not be all his fault. You might blame Erik ten Hag, but you cannot tell me that Jadon Sancho has been a success at Manchester United Football Club, because he hasn't. He was amazing at Dortmund, and I dare say he'll be amazing there again. But at United, we haven't seen anything from him. The only good thing for Jadon Sancho's United career is it's not over yet, technically. I'll be very surprised he plays for United again, but he is still a Manchester United player. So who knows? He might come back in the summer and dazzle us all next season. I doubt it, though. The biggest flop, though, number 1. The biggest flop at Manchester United, post for Alex Ferguson. And for me, this guy wins by a country mile. Alexis Sanchez. He was great at Arsenal. Do you remember the game against Mario Darmian where he more or less ended Mario Darmian's Premier League career at the Emirates? What a player. Couldn't believe it when we got him. It looked like he was going to go to Manchester City. We got him. I was buzzing. Thank you. Yes. Just the player we need. Hopefully now he can kick on and we can get a title challenge, a proper title challenge, not one that sees us finishing 19 points behind Manchester City, underway. And instead what happened, he had a good game against Yeovil, and that was about it. Broke the wage structure to get him and didn't do anything. And in the end, I think we did what we did with Sancho. We loaned him to Inter Milan and we paid some of his wages. Just a complete and utter flop. And the reason this hurts more than others is because he expected so much. On paper, it all worked. He played in the Premier League. He'd been minted in the Premier League. We knew what he was capable of. He was the type of player that we needed. Yet he didn't do anything. And we broke the bank to get him. So, yeah, not a good signing for Manchester United. Flopped massively. For me, hands down, the most disappointing player I've ever seen play for United. He was so good at Arsenal. He'd been good at Barcelona as well. But at Manchester United, he was just terrible. He really was. In terms of talent, he's up there with any player. But in terms of performances, right at the bottom. Get involved. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there anyone I've missed out? Is there anyone that should be higher up the list? Is there anyone that should be lower on the list? Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let us know what you think. If you're not doing already as well, make sure you are subscribing to Scotty and Motty. We'll be back very soon. This has been my top 10 biggest United flops post for Alex Ferguson. Thanks for watching.